Okay, my good friends, prepare yourself. We are going to be going deep into the history of the origin of mankind, of the universe, of all of the different gods that have been recorded in history. These things are not just somebody's imagination making up all these earth ages and so forth. And as I'm getting deeper and deeper back into Velikovsky, who I had read many years ago and not in its fullness and completeness, and I'm going back now looking deeper into it after discovering the things I've discovered, the mud fossils completely, totally 100% supports literally every word he said. And now the words that he said now take on a whole new meaning to me, because I can perceive them in a whole new light of, like, Typhon in the desert and all of these things that have come to light within the last 10 years or so, the giants and all that stuff. What were the world ages like? Who ruled the world? Now I'm going back into who was the gods. What did the gods do? Were the gods good? Were they bad? Were there good and bad gods? Were there fight going on? And when you read about the world ages, which we are about to do, we're going to go into Velikovsky's research, and this is going to wipe your mind right out, because it's over the top. And it's, knowing what I know now, I have to believe that there is at least some substance in these ancient accounts of these world ages. And they claim now, I just saw this just recently, that they claim each world age started with a new sun. And that was my conclusion just within the last month or two, that the sun really is the god of this solar system. The sun himself is the god, and he puts people or other planets and so forth in control of realms within the solar system, going all the way down to emotions. Because everything has to be dealt with. There's a god of the seas, a god of the skies, a god of the plants and animals, and gods of emotions and feelings and love and hatred and war. And there's a god that controls every one of those. And it is a deified person type god. And they had these battles literally in the heavens that people watched. And they saw these things going on with these giant monsters literally fighting in the heavens, recorded everywhere in the world, not just here or there. Everybody had the same story. And he was the one that went back and recorded all these stories from all of these cultures. And he did it in 1950, when you had to actually literally go there and see these texts, and see these writings, and see these tablets, and see the scrolls, and see the codexes, and see all of the carvings, and talk to all the people. And he did, everywhere in the world. And he records it, and he names names, and he says, here's what happened in this culture, here, this one, and this one. And we're going to read it, and if it doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what it's going to take to blow your mind, because it blew my mind. Okay, I find this kind of amusing. Volcanoes or asteroid, those are the only two options. AI ends the debate over dinosaur extinction event. Artificial intelligence. Let me show you, they're talking about volcanoes or asteroid and the extinction of the dinosaurs. Well, they don't understand mud fossils. That's the problem. I'm going to show you a dinosaur that is on steroids. And how did that get extinct? You see this? This is Africa. And this is, I'm going to show you a dinosaur, if you want to call it a dinosaur. It's called Typhon. He's a dragon. Here's his head. It goes all the way across North Africa. There's his end of his tail. The whole 9 yards. And here is his head. All right, there's his head, there's his red flaring eye, and this is all written about in the text. And he was attacking this giant fish right here. You have Google Earth, you can come up and look at it. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time showing you. And he was attacking him with his dragon venom there. And I wrote a book about this, and these were all coins, were even coins showing a dragon attacking a fish, a dragon attacking a fish, a dragon attacking a fish. And here he is, highlighted, his red flared eye in his throat. And here he is on top, one on top of the other. See, here he is, and here he is on top of him. And he runs the whole North Africa, and then he also is attacking the fish. And this is a fish right here. All right, so you can look at this, but we're going to go into Velikovsky because he did all the research that showed everybody had these same stories about these same events. And they saw these things fighting in the skies. They were fighting in actual battles in the heavens. All right, I'm going to just start here, which is a shocker, because all of the cultures on Earth had the same story about battles in the skies. At the same time as the seas were heaped up in immense tides, which was a global flood where Venus almost impacted Earth, there was a pageant going on in the skies. It presented itself to horrified onlookers, to people all over the Earth watching this, or the onlookers on Earth, as a gigantic battle. Because this battle was seen from almost all parts of the world, and because it impressed itself very strongly upon the people, the imagination of the people, it can be reconstructed in some detail. Everybody has stories about it. The events in the sky were viewed by the peoples of the world as a fight between an evil monster in the form of a serpent and the light god who engaged the monster in battle and thus saved the world. The tail of the comet leaping back and forth, discharging flames around the globe, and it was a comet to the globe of the comet. Now, the comet of Typhon. Now, I showed you Typhon in the desert. They're talking about Typhon, which could have been the same Typhon thrown down to Earth. I don't know. It was not only Abraham Rockenbach who synchronized the appearance of the comet Typhon with this whole thing, with the exodus of Israel from Egypt. Okay, so Typhon happened during this whole event of the Israelites coming out of Egypt and this earth standing still and the great flood and all that stuff. The spark, the great discharges of interplanetary forces are commemorated in the traditions, legends, and mythology of all the peoples of the world. The god Zeus of the Greeks, Odin was the god of the Icelanders, Ukko of the Finns, Perun of the Russian pagans, Wotan of the Germans, Mazda of the Persians, Marduk of the Babylonians, Shiva of the Hindus, is pictured with lightning in his hand, described as the god who threw his thunderbolts at the world overwhelmed with water and fire. And that's when Venus almost hit Earth. It was overwhelmed with water, and everything was on fire because of the extreme heat. And the compression of the atmosphere caused the waters to, the sky, all the gases to turn into waters and rain down in torrents of boiling water. The earth literally boiled. And in the Colburn Bible, it says exactly that. It says the world boiled during this event. Everybody had recordings of this, and they were, the Colburn Bible was different than the, other Bibles, and everybody had a story, and everybody's culture recorded these things, and a lot of them were in carvings and tablets and scrolls and papyruses and all kinds of things. And this is exactly what Velikovsky did. He went back and found all of these things and worked them into the story of what our true ancient past was. And he called all of the academics back then Homo ignoramus. They could not deal with it. They just couldn't deal with it. I wrote the book called Minds in Collision, Velikovsky, Mudfossils and Velikovsky and Minds in Collision. Well, here it is right here. All right, this is what I wrote this book back in 2015, and it's just on Amazon for 99 cents. You can just read it, that's all. It's only 99 cents. I didn't do it for any money. I just wanted it to be understood. Velikovsky was a hero. He should have been taken care of. Anyway, this is all the stuff in the ancient past that supports what I just showed you here on Google Earth, which is Typhon attacking the fish. And if you read Apollodorus, it says precisely exactly this event. All right, this is what got me right here. This is the Apollodorus, and this is the original writings back in 150 BC, something like that, of this, the birth of Zeus, the war of the Titans, Olympian gods. Then we get down to war of the giants and Typhon. Typhon, I'm going to read you at the end of the war of the giants and then how Typhon came about. This is 1.6.2 and 3. Okay, 1.6.2 and 3. Let's just get to the end of this where it says, you know, this is all about Zeus smoting all the giants. He killed all the giants, and Hercules helped them, and they shot them all dead with arrows and red hot missiles, and they killed all these with different types of torches and everything else. They killed all the giants. Now, here's at the end of this area. So Hermes, wearing the helmet of Hades, slew Hephaestus in the fight, and Artemis slew Gratian, and the Fates, fighting with brazier clubs, killed Argus and Thoas, and the other giants Zeus smote. So he killed all the other giants and destroyed them with thunderbolts, and all of them, Hercules shot with arrows as they were dying. So Zeus and the other gods, these were the gods, they killed all the giants. Well, who were the giants? The giants were Gaia, the earth. They were her children. So when the gods, Zeus and his crew, had overcome the giants, killed them all, Earth was more enraged because they just killed all their kids. So what she did was she had intercourse with Tartarus, which is basically like hell, and brought forth Typhon. Typhon was that dragon I just showed you. He was a hybrid between man and beast. In size and strength, he surpassed all the offspring of earth, and he was going to be her avenger. His thighs were a human shape, and so prodigious were his bulk that he outtopped all the mountains. His head often brushed the stars. Right? I don't see that as not possible. One of his hands reached out to the west, the other to the east, and from them projected 100 dragons' heads, and Zeus burnt them all off. I can't find them. From the thighs downward, he had huge coils of vipers, which when drawn out reached to his very head and emitted a loud hissing. And I can find those patterns in the desert. It's just exactly like leather. His body was winged, all winged, unkempt, hair streamed on the wind from his head and cheeks, fire flashed from his eyes, which I just showed you. So great was Typhon, when hurling kindled rocks, he made for the very heavens. He was going right for the heavens to kill the gods because they killed Earth's kids. So he went rushing at the heavens. All right? When the gods saw him rushing at heavens, they made for Egypt in flight, and being pursued by Typhon, they changed their forms into those of animals. So they just morphed into animals to try to hide out from Typhon. However, Zeus pelted Typhon at a distance, and then it became a battle. And anyway, Typhon's laying there dead on top of a giant fish. So all I can say is he got the fish, and they're both here laying in the desert dead. And this is very hard to explain. They must have come out of the sky. They said they were fighting in the skies. I don't know how to. I just can't explain this. This is why we need to start thinking about it. But it is a dragon, and he's attacking a gigantic fish, and this was written about. Once I saw that, I said, whoa, these Apollodorus at least has to be looked at. And when you start looking at it, it freaks you out. It blows your mind, because it starts to say that, you know, it talks about Earth and the sky mating, and then all these giants and these 100-handers and cyclopses and monsters, and it just went all crazy after that. So it was just a system of chaos, which they say it all started with the mingling of this and that and the chaos and the waters and let there be light and all that. Yes, it appears that that's true, but it didn't work out to be real good in the beginning. It seemed, everything was bad, and it still is bad now. There's been nothing but war and hatred and violence and plague and disease, and primarily it's the inhabitants of Earth, and not the inhabitants of the animals. The animals are nice. The humans are the ones that are a problem, and they have been a problem since day one. Since day one. And they had gods to govern all of these different regions. They say, here's what you're supposed to do, here's what you're supposed to do, and nobody did it. So, and then even the gods themselves rebelled against the big god and came down to Earth just to have fun with the women. And they could change themselves into anything they want. They could change them into animals, they could change themselves into fungus or ants or marbles or the sky, or they could change themselves into anything they want, anything. Constellations, rivers, trees, plants, anything. And they would change themselves into really good-looking, hot-looking guys and come down onto Mount Olympus at the same size as the women that were here. And then they would Zeus was having sex with every woman that he could find. And he was the father of like half of the world. He was, and he's the one that apparently said, let's get 200 guys together, we'll go down there and we'll just party like crazy. We'll set up a place up on Mount Olympus and let the good times roll. And it didn't work out. And God said, no, this is not, I'm not going to go along with this. You guys are going to be imprisoned and put into Tartarus. And Enoch wrote all about this. Enoch's books wrote all about this intervention between God and the lesser gods, and how they went against his commandments, and he locked them up in Tartarus. And Enoch is another book that is just over the top stunning, but so is Velikovsky. So let's go and look at what Velikovsky had to say, because he sort of compiled into something maybe we can understand a little bit. Apollodorus is so off the wall that all you can do is read it and go, oh my God, and I'm telling you, I was doing that continuously. I said, how could this possibly be? How could this possibly be? But then you look at what you're seeing here and you say, how could this possibly be? And it really, I mean, how could it be? And then again, this isn't just the only one. This is just the one in Africa, and that's all in North Africa. You got Quetzalcoatl over here. It was also written about in the ancient text. Here he is right here. That's Quetzalcoatl. There's his head. And his body runs all the way up the East Coast. He's a feathered serpent. These are all feathers. You see this? This is his head, and here's his beards. Remember I said they all have beards. There's the beards on Quetzalcoatl, and he had a big headdress. You see this big headdress? It comes up here. And that was all feathers too. And here's the feathers right here. You want to see a feather? There's a feather right there. Here's what feathers look like. Just like that. All right, they have that little things down. See them like this thing here, all that stuff down. They have those things running in between it. See it? And there's another spine over there. And anyway, he runs all the way up the East Coast. And feathers make excellent growing material for plants. They sell feather meal. They grind them up and you can put on your plants extremely high nitrogen. And they make things grow extremely green, like the Green Mountains. All right, they're actually called the Green Feather Mountains now. Look at this. These are feathers. All right, they're mountains now, but they were feathers at one time. And all of this green stuff has run off, and people can grow a lot of green stuff down in here because of the feather meal. It's basically feather meal. And it runs all the way up the East Coast. You see that? That's not just accidental. These are all the same things. These are all feathers. It's not crustal deformation. This is dragon deformation. And it runs, this is whole body, runs right up here, all the way up, all the way up, all the way out. Here's his beards. and he's spitting stuff out into the, out here. This is a dead zone here. This is anoxic, all just dead. Whatever he was spitting out, he spit it right out into this area here. And he's all written about too. He covers the whole East Coast. These are just gigantic creatures. And again, I cannot account for their sizes, how they lived, how they ate, how they slept, what they did. It's just that they are here and they support the ancient texts.